With that then, shall we pick our teams for Liverpool against Arsenal on Sunday? Gorsty, we'll start with you then for your defence. Alisson Becker will obviously be between the sticks. Virgil van Dijk training today. He's recovered from his illness after a rest at Chelsea midweek. Are you throwing him straight back in?
Yeah, 100%. Canate. Trent comes back in, and so does Andy Robertson.
Theo, how about yourself?
Yeah, Van Dijk's back in. Canate alongside him. Didn't think Matip was particularly great at Chelsea. He's better than Tsimikas at least, so Robertson definitely comes back in. I would have been tempted to have Joe Gomez keep his place, but he missed training, didn't he, yesterday? And I don't think Klopp actually offered an update on the players that missed training yesterday. I think Doyley asked the question and he was told it's part of the recovery, that sometimes they need that second day, but then there's like footage of a couple of them limping. So maybe it will just be a case of Trent coming back in. And that's back to the four that started against Man City and were destroyed in that second half. So I would like to see Gomez, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's Trent.
Yeah, Beth, how about yourself? Is there any case for Matip and Gomez? And then if you want to talk us through midfield after your defence as well.
Yeah, I would. If Gomez was fit, I think I'd be tempted to keep him in. I thought he did a decent enough job. As we said, probably had one of the best chances of the game. And I just think, maybe if you keep it tight against Arsenal for the first sort of 50 minutes or so, and then you need in a goal, bring Trent on. I think, yeah. But obviously, if Gomez is unavailable, then you bring Trent in. And then midfield, obviously, it looks like Thiago is going to be back. Depends how fit he is, I suppose. I think if he is fit enough to start, then definitely he starts alongside Fabinho. And then Jordan Henderson, we know what he can bring in these sort of bigger games, especially at Anfield. So I'd be tempted to go Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago, as Klopp's done for a lot of the big games in the past when all three have been fit.
Yeah, it appears to be arguably his most trusted midfield. I mean, Gorsty, what's your take on that? Thiago has just come back from a very long injury, longer than first expected. Would you throw him straight in, or would you ease him back? Because he's aggravated injuries so often this season, isn't he?
No, I wouldn't be starting him. Feels like he's been off for ages now, actually, doesn't it?
Since the Wolves game at the start of February, yeah.
Yeah, I'll be bringing back Harvey Elliott and keeping Fabinho and Henderson in there. Not too sure why Elliott was missing on Tuesday. Actually, he wasn't injured or anything. I think Klopp just made the point of dropping a lot, to be fair, and he was dropped entirely from the squad. He's obviously played a lot of football this season. For someone who only turned 20 on Tuesday, that was the only game he hasn't featured in, wasn't it? So maybe a rest could do him good, and I'd be bringing him back in. Keeping Fabinho and Henderson in there.
Yeah, I mean, Theo's Gorsty's midfield there. It's the one we saw last game at Anfield in the 7-0 win over Man United. Would you hopefully keep that momentum going from that one with the same midfield? And then if you want to pick your attack as well.
It's a hard one. I'd probably drop Henderson. It's been such an intense week for Liverpool. These Henderson and Fabinho have played two. To ask them to play a third might be a bit of a stretch when we know they haven't been at their best this season. You think, well, if you've got one of them on the bench, you can bring him on for the other after an hour, so rest them a little bit, because those are the two players that the legs haven't quite been there. I don't think Thiago is going to be ready to start because it has been a long layoff. So maybe you stick with Curtis Jones. He did well enough against Chelsea. He at least showed a bit more energy. So they're willing to win the ball back. Harvey Elliott, he's someone you could shout to come back in. Obviously, he was missed the game against Chelsea. I think he was just rested. He lost his record, didn't he, of featuring in every game this season. But when you're playing against Arsenal, a trio of Jones, Elliott, and Fabinho seems very offensive, shall we say? You think you need a bit more conservative.
I was going to make the case for actually Milner to go on man mark. Martin Odegaard. I mean, it's not a bad shout, is it?
That is where I'm going. I think James Milner could come in. He's experienced. He's still got that energy, doesn't he? He's a leader in there. When other players' stance has been lacking, maybe it's a chance for him. He's still got something to play for individually, of course, with his contract as well. He hasn't let that fall down when he's been turned to this season. But again, he's another player. You're not going to get full 90 minutes out of the midfield. Just hoping for the best here, aren't we? Oh, yeah, you want him to go on attack as well, didn't you?
I agree with the Milner pick. I think the way to combat Martin Odegaard, who's arguably been the best player in the league this season, or one of the best players in the league, I think you need someone like Milner to get in there and rough it up a bit and, make the game a bit sloppy and a bit scrappy. And I think that's how you beat this Arsenal side, because they're very clean and tidy. And if you can try and stop Odegaard in that sense, as anti-football as that may sound, that's the situation Liverpool are in, believe it or not. So depressingly, I think that's the way to go about it. But no one asked me, Theo. So if you want to go on into your attack.
Nunes keeps his place on the left. It was a surprise to see him subbed early-ish against Chelsea. He was a lively attacker there. I'm dropping Jota. I know he likes a goal against Arsenal, but he's not been consistent really, as he's been in and out of these games. He's still trying to get back to his best, and we know his goal scoring drought now is like, what is it, over a year now, or is he's just coming up to the anniversary if he hasn't just passed it? Maybe he'll get his goal off the bench against Arsenal. So I'm actually going Firmino down the middle. I thought he did well against Chelsea. He's another player who likes a goal against Arsenal, and only got a few games left at Anfield. Let's enjoy him while we can. And Mohamed Salah, he's one of those players limping after Chelsea, missed training yesterday. But he's like Luis Suarez, isn't he? He always finds a way to play. You're just hoping he's fit enough to at least start. Again, it seems to be the case for most of Liverpool's forwards. They all love a goal against Arsenal. So you're hoping that all this comes together and we see maybe not a 7-0, but them turning it on and Salah's fit enough to start.
Yeah, I mean, Beth, it's quite a bit of a headache picking the attack now, actually, with all these players coming back from injury and stuff. I mean, Roberto Firmino was very good at Chelsea, wasn't he? Do you think he's got a case to start on Sunday?
I think very good's probably a bit of a stretch. I think he was best of a bad bunch for about 20 minutes and then sort of faded. No, I wouldn't bring Bobby back in. I think I'd bring Gakpo in. I'd put Gakpo on the left. I think that's his favourite position. I know Klopp doesn't seem to like playing him there. I think he's obviously played him as that sort of false nine role, hasn't he? But if I was picking the team, I would put Gakpo on the left, Nunes through the middle, and Mohamed Salah, if he's fit, obviously back on the right. I think, one of Liverpool's most potent forms of attack in recent years has been the fullbacks getting forward and whipping balls into the box. And I think if you've got someone like Nunes there in the middle ready to sort of get on the ends of one of them, that's why it's, I've been surprised actually how much he's been played on the left because, I know he's done well there to be fair, but, he's such that he is sort of looks like your typical number 9 at least and has that sort of physicality. So, I'd go Gakpo, Nunes and Salah as my front three.
Yeah, I mean, Gortis, Beth said there, it's quite an interesting one actually with the Gakpo-Nunes situation because we saw Gakpo playing on the left and Nunes through the middle at the start of the year. Then it changed to Gakpo being to the middle and it was very effective. And now we're seeing again that Nunes isn't as effective out wide. I mean, how would you line up your attack?
Yeah, it is an interesting one. We had the chance to speak to Gakpo after the game and that was one of the questions I put to him about him. Basically, coming to the club, having established himself as a bit of a left winger for Holland and PSV, but Klopp's trying to turn him into a bit more of a number 9, and he said it's something he's having to adjust to and develop, but he's kind of getting tips from Roberto Firmino, who's played that centre forward role at Liverpool, as well as anyone, hasn't he, in the last 15 years. So he's it's a difficult one. I think Klopp is just going to persist with Gakpo as a number 9 and Nunes off the left. I think eventually next season when everyone's fit and firing, I don't think there's much disparity between what might be his first choice front three and the second choice front three. I think there is the option there to move them about, whether that's Nunes down the middle and Diaz off the left, or Gakpo off the left and Nunes down the centre. There's plenty of flexibility there, but I just think now between now and the end of the season he will stick with Gakpo through the middle and Nunes on the left.
I mean, just on that Ghost and that point, I mean, Klopp said Luis Diaz will be back for the Leeds game. When Luis Diaz is back, I mean, what do you do then with the attack? I mean, I put this question to all three of you. It's a bit of a dilemma what to do in attack, really, isn't it?
I don't think it is, to be fair. I think the fact that Diaz has been out for so long, I think he'll just be restricted to cameo appearances, really. Certainly for the next few weeks. I don't really envision him coming straight back into the team after over 6 months out. So I think we're going to see the best of him next season when he's had the full pre-season under his belt and he's fit and ready again. I think it might just be a case of easing him back in.
Yeah, I think like Ghosty said, I think as well when you've had a knee injury in particular, you always sort of fear what player is going to come back when someone's been sidelined for so long, and it's obviously a recurrence of a knee injury. You're just hoping that he hasn't lost a yard of pace and he hasn't lost some of those sort of the blistering sort of qualities that he had when he was at his best. So I think between now and the end of the season, we'll probably see him coming off the bench and hopefully being able to make an impact from there. But I certainly don't see him as a starter probably until next season.
I feel a bit like Jurgen Klopp here because you've asked us this question a few times over the last few weeks. I might just go ask better questions, Pat. He's getting a bit better about repeating himself, isn't he? Yeah, as the others said, it's such a long layoff. You're waiting to see what state Diaz comes back in, but you're going to have to phase him back in. They can't just throw him back into the starting 11. Even if you get that little bit of an adrenaline boost like we saw from Harvey Elliott last year, we didn't see any more from Elliott once that wore off until like May time, and he had more time to get back up to speed in the full pre-season. Then he was ready to go. So I think when you've got so many attacking options, there's no sense in just throwing Diaz back in. Wait until he is absolutely 100% right. Hopefully he can become an impact sub in these final few weeks, and then you want to be in a position where he can be first choice again next season. But there's still plenty to play for. Hopefully he can have some sort of impact, even if he isn't going to be starting week in, week out and doing what we saw him do for the first half of the season and last season as well.